Hi, I'm Bob Dixon. Welcome to the Leader's Edge Hot Takes edition of the Five Eagles Insight Podcast. For over 3 decades, I served in the military as an engineer and as a strategist, and I learned a few things about leadership. We know that it goes beyond theory. It's about real-world application. So in this series, sponsored by Five Eagles Leadership, we feature industry leaders and share their leadership journeys with you. My mission's simple. It's to help you become the best leader you can be. Now, if that sounds like something you're interested in, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. If you'd like to be considered as a guest in upcoming episodes, please go to 5eaglesleadership.com/interview and apply today. Now, let's get started.
Welcome back to the Leader's Edge podcast. My name is Marisa McClure, and joining me today is Nicole Heetland from Southern California. Nicole is the founder and owner of Legacy Estate Services USA. Thanks for being here today, Nicole.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Great, me too. Okay, let's dive into some questions. So to get us started, give us about a 90-second overview of your business and why you got into it.
Yeah, so Legacy Estate Services USA was founded about 2 years ago after dealing in my family with some issues with my grandmother downsizing. So what Legacy Estate Services does is really help families with either estate closure or estate liquidation if people are downsizing or if there is a death in the family. We come in and we help from start to finish with any estate sale needed, with any sale of items, home clean out. We can help sell the home and really take it from start to finish for people, because the last thing you want to be dealing with if you're trying to grieve a loved one or help them downsize and deal with that emotional stress is really be dealing with, how do we get rid of the 8 TVs dad had in the garage, this kind of thing. So we really step in and just take that off of people's plates so they're able to focus on their family, and we kind of handle all the legwork, all the dirty work, and get it so the house can either be ready for a new family member to move in or then to be sold for the family to recoup some money from their family's home.
That sounds like such a great service to be able to provide for folks that are really going through a challenging time. So I love that.
Yeah, we actually started it because, like I said, it started with my grandmother in Iowa. We were moving her to assisted living. And she had a beautiful, big home she had lived in for 65 years. And so there's a lot of memories there, and it's a lot of emotional stress going through everything. So I thought, there really could be a place for this in the market where people want to be able to go through the heirlooms and, do the kind of the fun side of things and have those memories, but not have to deal with the nitty gritty. Where do we, how do we get rid of mattresses? Just kind of these like things that come up when you do have either a loss or a downsize in the family. So that's where we come in. And it is great, like you said, Marisa, to be able to help people kind of through that challenging time and be there sort of as their go-to.
Yes. And there are so many things that you don't anticipate, having to deal with.
Exactly.
When you're going through that process. So yeah, that sounds just really, really great. Okay, so what do you think is the biggest problem that you see in your industry, and how are you solving that for yourself, for your clients, for your referral partners?
Yeah, so a big thing we see is just kind of, it's disorganized. The whole, call it end of life, services. It's a little disorganized, and people really don't know where to find resources. And so that's actually part of what I want to work on too, is helping people with those resources. Where can we find a comprehensive place where we know what to do if someone does pass away? Even something so small as, how many death certificates do I need to close a cell phone account? These kinds of things. So it's a little disorganized. And I think, especially in the United States, we don't talk about end of life much. And so people do lose a loved one, and they're kind of left thinking, what now? I've going through this heartbreak, and also now have to deal with, where's the bank account information? How do I turn off the cable? All of these things. And so there's just a lot of misinformation and lack of information that we try to really step in and fill that gap in the market. And especially as I'm sure everyone's aging. We're all aging every day. But the United States, the boomer population is aging out of their big homes. They're downsizing, they're moving into assisted living, some are passing on. And so we really want to be there and step in for people to help them instead of it just being like, now what? We can say, hey,
Right.
we've got the resources for you. We can come in if needed, but also like, here's just what you need to know and be helpful in that way.
Yeah, I definitely can identify with those challenges. My father passed about 6 years ago, and we had to downsize my mother, and she's definitely getting into the place where I'm starting to think about some of those end of life challenges. So I definitely think it's a service that is needed. So that's awesome. So who is your ideal client, and what are the major outcomes they can expect from working with you?
So we work with a lot of people who are downsizing. We've got a couple great clients we're working with in Southern California here right now, and they're both moving parents into assisted living. So again, kind of taking that, the 4-bedroom house where everyone grew up, how do we turn that into a 1-bedroom living situation and just helping them with that process. We also do a lot with people who have, had a family member pass on. And so we'll come in and really just once the family has everything they want, any heirlooms, knickknacks, anything of that nature, we then come in and really just handle it. So it's people who maybe are elderly and looking for help, but also a lot of people like you, like the children of these people who say, I've got a full-time job, I've got kids at home, I don't have the time to be spending 3 weeks at mom's place trying to go through stuff and figuring out where to put it. So that's a huge portion of our business too. Is people our age who are like, okay, mom and dad need a hand. They're obviously not going to do it. How can I find someone to assist them? And so I deal a lot with the children of the aging population as well.
Yeah, and I definitely get, I'm busy, I'm working, I have
Yeah.
a kid of my own, but it's also the emotional challenge of getting rid of things.
Right.
Being someone who kind of likes to hold on to everything,
Yeah.
it's realizing that you can't keep everything and having someone help through that process of being able to actually get rid of some of the things that you grew up with and around, and that's a great service to provide for folks as well.
Well, we'd love to take the approach of, having 3 buckets where it's like, okay, this is something we could never part with. This meant the world to my parents. This is something from my childhood. Then there's things that are maybe like less, heartstring pulling, but still kind of special, or, you're not sure. We just kind of put those aside while we work through the process. And then there's the items that maybe, we don't care about. It's, the dining room furniture that they got a couple years ago. Okay, we know we can go ahead and sell that.
Right.
So really, yeah, being there as a helpful third party who doesn't have an emotional investment in the home and in the items, and just really helping people then walk through, okay, let's take a step back. It is emotional, but also let's just think, do you have room in your home for this piece of furniture? And if not, is there someone else in the family that may want it? Or is it something we can maybe part with? And just helping people through the process.
A great balance of compassion and sort of practicality, right?
Exactly. And that's exactly what I strive for. Yeah.
So what would you say makes you unique in the way that you help your clients achieve that outcome?
Yeah. So here in California, I am a licensed real estate agent. And so I really have the capacity to be that full service where I can come in, our team can handle the estate sale. We then, do private sell-off of any items. We handle all donations with tax receipts, of course, for our clients. And then we'll get any work done needed so I can project manage and then put the house on the market. So it can really be this start to finish process for people where I kind of step in essentially as the project manager and say, this is handled, of course, always with client input and approval, but here's what our thoughts are and here's what we can do. Here's our turnaround. We're also great at working with trusts if needed. So kind of just like stepping into that space and just taking it off of people's plates while they deal with the more important problems and issues of, working through a loss and just kind of dealing with the emotional side of things with their family.
Yeah, it really sounds like a one-stop shop. So
Yes, exactly. And that's my goal for sure.
Awesome. So where do you see your industry going in the next 5 to 10 years, and how are you staying on top of that?
Yeah. So with Legacy Estate Services USA, my goal is to have a nationwide footprint. It is a very repeatable model. We work with a lot of local organizations, but those are throughout the country. We do donations with veterans groups, and there's a need everywhere for kind of secondhand furniture, this sort of thing. So That's kind of where I see the business going. As far as the industry, I think it will be in growth mode. As we discussed earlier, a lot of the population is reaching that end of life stage where they're either downsizing or passing on. And so, there's going to be a lot of need, I think, for help. So people aren't just out there going, what in the world do I do with this giant house and my parents' stuff? And I don't know where to start. Like,
It's a lot.
let us be a
It'd be
resource.
very overwhelming for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's too much if you're sad. You don't want to be sitting, in a house crying for 2 weeks trying to go through items and all this stuff. So, yeah, again, just being that resource. Even if you're not a client of ours, we've got resources on the website, and so people can really just see, okay, yeah, well, what's my next step? Like, what do I even do?
Right. Yeah, great. So, what would you say is the biggest failure or challenge that you faced, and how has that helped shape the way you do business?
A big challenge is helping people realize, just because something's very valuable within your family, it may not have market value. So that's something we do run into often. People who have china or grandfather clocks, these, very beautiful keepsakes that have been in the family a long time, but maybe they don't have space for them. And they're thinking, well, we can get $4,000 towards mom's, retirement home for this. And I'm like, there's not really a market for it. So that is a challenge I run into, just helping people navigate the market. Antiques really aren't worth what they once were, which is a bummer. And so I think that is kind of the biggest challenge I run into, aside from helping people navigate the emotional side of things.
Yeah. Okay. So what would you say is your next area of growth for you, for yourself as a leader, or for your business?
Yeah, so we are growing the team, which is really exciting. We're working on building out the estate sale side of things. So having a set team that goes out and does the estate sale while we're kind of working on some of, the more nitty gritty, the detail oriented items. And just, kind of seeing where things go. The nice thing is, as a small business right now, we just have 3 full-time employees. So we're able to be really flexible. We hire help as needed for sales and cleanouts and stuff. But yeah, my vision is to really grow out the resource side of the business as well, to really help people. And that's, it's always been kind of a service-driven business to begin with, to really help people know, okay, even if you aren't a client, again, here are resources you can use to help you through this time. Instead of it having to be, pay us this much money and we'll tell you what to do. It's like, have these free resources, call us if you need us. Not everyone needs a full service, manager to come in and deal with everything. They can say, okay, I have some resources here in my area. I can just call the Veterans of America and they'll come pick up these 3 items I have, that sort of thing. So just being available to people and helping them through these transitions.
Yeah, that's great. So kind of a funner question. If you could have lunch with one person, living or dead, who would that be and why?
Oh gosh, that's always a tough one. I always, I always come back to my grandfather on my mom's side. He was such an awesome person. He spoke 5 languages. He played minor league baseball in his early years and then grew his family in Iowa. He had 4 kids and was a German teacher at a local high school. So he's just one of the most kind of like last Renaissance men, right? Like he was so interesting. Yeah. And just, we really felt his loss when he passed on a few years ago. So just would always, love to have one more meal with him.
Yeah, and I'm sure going through that experience has kind of helped how to inform how you work with your clients.
Absolutely. That, and on my dad's side, we had a farm in Iowa that we dealt with. It was, my grandmother lived in that home from birth until death. And so that was a real challenge for the whole family to kind of go, okay, what in the world do we do?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely informed my compassion side of things and how to go about, navigating with people who are also going through loss.
Yeah. So you mentioned that this business has been in place for about 2 years. So what were you doing before, and how did that kind of transition into this new business?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I'm a licensed real estate agent here in California, and I have been for about 14 years. So I was in commercial real estate for a number of years. During COVID, commercial real estate, as I'm sure you know, really took a bit of a downturn. And so it gave me the opportunity to step back and say, okay, what maybe makes sense? Like, where do I see myself going? And then I kind of just had this idea. So I was in commercial real estate and operations management. And so both of those things have really helped shape the business. and given me the tools I need to be an effective leader and to be an effective decision maker as the sole decision maker for the business, which is always helpful. I'm still Googling things, figuring it out, but
Yeah.
at least I've got some of those solid bases in place.
Yeah, that's great. And having some employees to help support as you continue the journey of developing and growing, and but that's great. And it really seems like you have a great vision for how you're going to move forward in the future.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So last question, what's the best way for people to contact you if they'd like to work with you or discuss a referral partnership? How do folks find you?
Yeah. So we do have our website, Legacy Estate Services USA. Let me just, I don't know if I can send you a link. But also our phone number, very easy, is 949-423-6236. And then, the website I can send to you. Very easy.
I've actually already checked it out.
Oh, perfect. Great. Yeah, so that's the easiest way. We've got the contact form on there, or people, that 949 number does ring directly to me. So I field all of the calls at the moment. And like I said, I am looking to do nationwide business. So we did a job last year in Atlanta, which was great. Same kind of thing, right? It was 3 kids. The house had been just sitting there for a couple years because they just didn't have the time to deal with it. And so we came in for 2 weeks and really just got it ready for sale. So
great. So it's also great. We can do so many more things remotely now that I'm sure that really enables you to be able to, venture out across the country and to be able to still do a lot of the functions that you do from where you are, but then reaching out to some of those local resources as you need to.
Well, and that's the great thing too, is just, being able to be present in the local areas, because pretty much every area has sort of their special nonprofits, right? So be it women's shelters, or we work a lot with veteran shelters out here. So a lot of stuff we can't sell, we donate to the Veterans of America, and they're able to actually use that for unhomed veterans as they're putting them in permanent housing. And so it just, it's kind of a nice thing for the family too, to say, okay, well, mom and dad's stuff is going to do something really good.
Right.
And that's another thing I think really helps alleviate some of the pain of letting go, is like, it's going to go have another life and really help someone. So that can be really special. And so, you're exactly right. We seek out those nonprofits across the country as needed, and really make sure we're partnering with them and kind of finding the best use for people's items as they kind of move on to their next life.
Great. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for being here today and for telling us about your business and about your journey and, how you see this moving into the future. I wish you all the best with your future endeavors.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time today. It was great to talk to you.
All right, great. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Leader's Edge Hot Take series. I hope you found today's insight meaningful, valuable, and that you're ready to put them into action. Now, if you enjoyed the episode and want to keep improving your leaderships, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. I post new content every week, packed with strategies, tips, and real-life examples to help you lead with impact. Now remember, great leadership isn't just about guiding others, it's about continuously growing yourself. If you'd like to be considered as a guest for upcoming episodes, please go to 5eaglesleadership.com/interview to apply today. Keep pushing, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next episode. Be awesome.